Today we're going to take a trip into the dark web. I'm sure you've all heard of the dark web. I'm sure everyone has heard of the dark web. The dark web is only accessible through certain software. Software, I mind you, that was funded and created by the United States government. How is that for weird? The software makes a person anonymous and able to access the dark web. But be careful, because once in, things can go terribly wrong if you're not careful. We've all heard the stories of people going missing. They go on the dark web, they do something, their IP gets tracked, and then they hear a knock at the door. And then boom! Government assassins take you away. Or black market people for your kidneys. We'll be discussing the dark web and some of the sites that are on the dark web and stories surrounding it. We got some interesting stories about the dark web and some of the sites. Some disturbing stuff. So be warned, some of it gets a little bit graphic. What is the dark web? I'm sure many people know what it is by now. I'm sure you've seen the YouTube videos about people exploring the dark web, or as someone said, getting boxes from the dark web. This is how I think about it. The iceberg. The top surface is the layer of internet that regular folks like us use. Google, Twitter, all that shit. Many people think this takes up a big part of the internet. How much do you think it is? People think it's a large number. Can I buy a sex slave? You can. 6%. No. 4%. Only 4%. Below that, there's something called the deep web. Now, people get the deep web and the dark web mixed up. And it's not the same thing. People think it is the same thing. Like, oh, dark, deep. That has to be the same thing, right? Wrong! You're wrong! Come on! Be smarter. Deep web actually consists of all the private information online. So you go to the doctor, you tell them what's wrong, they write your medical records, blah, 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 and that gets sent away to the deep web. Medical records, arrest records, anything considered personal information, credit card numbers, shit like that, your passports, pictures of your first fornication. You cannot access the deep web through regular means of using Google or anything like that. What percentage do you think the deep web is? If you had to take a guess, we use the surface layer of the web. That's about 4% of the web. The deep web is what? How much? It is 500 times bigger than the surface web. 500. That's with a 5. That's with a 0. That's with another 0. 500 times bigger. That is massive. You can find all sorts of personal information on there. You could probably buy a new identity. Someone that's probably dead or someone that's alive. It's crazy. Below the surface, though, below the deep web. Below, so deep down there's another level. We have to go balls deep, straight down into the dark web. You can't just be like, Google, dark web. Ha ha ha, I'm going to dark web. You can't. You need a certain software called Tor. T-O-R, the Onion Router. Tor, or the Onion. Tor is like the Internet Explorer, but it hides your identity. How does this do this? So it takes your internet through a series of proxy servers. And these proxy servers are run by thousands of individuals, making the location of your PC nearly impossible to find. So it's like your stealth plane. It kind of looks just like Google Chrome. And here in this place, you can find whatever the hell you want. It is a vast ocean of goodies and services. We're talking from hiring hitman, drugs, drug trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, live pay-per-view of people getting tortured and killed. Live pay-per-view of people cannibalizing each other. The dark web uses web addresses to get to websites, right? Like regular Google Chrome, web addresses is the address of the site. I'm sure you guys know what a web address is, www.google.com. There's your web address. On Tor, instead of being www and ending in .com, it ends in onion. Because when you see the shit, it makes you want to cry. So using your regular Google Chrome will not work. Even if it did work, you wouldn't have the protection of Tor itself to hide you. So if you didn't have the protection of Tor, then what would happen then? Maybe someone tracks your IP address, finds out where you live. You hear a knock on the door. Then you get hit with a fucking guitar or a banjo and thrown into the back of a white minivan. You think you're going to soccer practice with a hot soccer mom, but no, she's taking you to her bathtub to cut out your kidney. So these dark websites also use a scrambling name structure to create the website names. So pretty much impossible to remember. Even if you were to remember the site's web address, these sites often change their addresses to avoid law enforcement. So how was the dark web created? It's an interesting story. bare bones of it. It was created by the US government for spies to exchange information, developed in the 1990s. So spies could exchange information without having their name be out there, and hide information from the US enemies. Later on, it was released to the public, which is kind of weird. So what does the dark web contain? Consists of all types of goods and services, credit card numbers, guns, drugs, missiles, counterfeit money, submarines, software. You can hire hackers to attack other people's PCs. I said submarines. You can buy submarines on there. Now, do you know how to drive a submarine? I'm sure you don't know how. You could get $2,500 in credit cards for $500 sent straight to your house. Of course, it's illegal, but you save money. Not everything, though, on the dark web is illegal, though that's where a lot of the scary stories come from. Like I said, not everything is scary on the dark web. Hell, they have their own Facebook on the dark web called the Black Books. So if you want to get down and dirty, and get to know some interesting people, make a profile, and there you go. Easy, simple. Let's dive into some websites. All right, Cannibal Cafe is one of the websites here on the dark web. Such a nice name, I have to say. Cannibal Cafe. I think the name itself tells you everything you need to know about this place. It's a place where people mingle and talk about killing and eating each other. Many people claim to have killed, cooked, and eaten other people. There are many posts on this website that describe in detail how to prepare human flesh, and how to find someone to eat. Apparently, it's a very ritualistic thing. If you're not careful, you could be picked up by somebody driving by. Next thing you know, your giblets are cooking in an air fryer. There are people out there that are looking for people to eat. It's kind of scary. It makes sense for these people to eat people, but there are also people who want to be eaten. We've talked about this before, vor. People will seek out others to actually be eaten. People will actually go around being willing participants to actually be slaughtered, drain their blood, chopped up, cooked, and fried and eaten. So there are some famous stories about this site that we're going to jump into. Be warned, it gets graphic. So be aware. Beware. Be warned. We're going to get into the story of a friendly and polite German cannibal who ate a man he met online. A friendly and polite cannibal who put out an advert for a man to slaughter in a gay magazine before murdering and eating him has been going for walks around town. Murderer Armin Meeves, 58, was given sunglasses and a cap to hide his identity and then driven to another state in Germany for walks. 2 officers accompany him. We always drive with him to another state for security reasons. There he can walk around town, which is kind of weird, isn't it? In March 2001, Meeves, I think it's Meeves, stabbed Bernd Brandis, 43, in the heart after amputating his penis and frying it in a pan with salt, pepper, garlic, and nutmeg. The murderer revealed in a televised interview in 2007. The pair met online after Meeves put out an advertisement for someone who was willing to be killed and eaten. 2 early respondents were turned down because there was no sexual chemistry there with the first, and the second wanted to be nailed down and beaten to death, which Meeves thought was weird. He thought that was weird. Okay. He thought that was weird. So Mr. Brands met Meeves, a former computer technician, at his Rottenburg farmhouse in the western state of Hesse. The timber-beamed mock Tudor house had belonged to his mother during the murder in a pre-prepared killing room. Both men tried to eat part of Mr. Brands, who had taken 20 sleeping pills to numb the pain. When Mr. Brandes was dead, he was chopped to pieces on a butcher's block and kept in a freezer as Meeves gradually ate meal-sized portions over a period of months. So after putting out an advertisement for a second victim, he was finally caught by police when an Austin student reported him in 2002. Meeves used the website Cannibal Cafe, whose disclaimer mentions the distinction between reality and fantasy to find his victims. His post stated this: looking for a well-built 18 to 30-year-old, I'm 31, bitch, to be slaughtered and then consumed. That was his post. And apparently this happened. He found somebody, that man, and he did that. Now it's interesting to think, is it murder if the person's like, yes, do me, like that? Of course, it's breaking the law, though. What's funny, while this man was in prison doing his sentence, he became a vegetarian. Once you go off the penis, you can get cured. Shall we dive into more stories? This site didn't really take off until a particular story hit the airwaves. The cannibal cop story. Now this one's a bit shorter. It's not like great crazy detail about chopping a penis off and frying it up and using nutmeg and shit. But this one's a little bit shorter. The gist of this story, there's a cop, an NYPD officer, that's right, United States. He was on the site called Cannibal Cafe. He was talking, he was chatting to others about killing and eating his wife, you know, along with wanting to eat a couple other women. So as he's doing this, he gets up, he leaves his laptop on, he leaves the web address open and everything, and he goes to work. His wife comes home, sees that his laptop's open. Now they've had some marital issues, okay? They're freshly married and sex isn't all that good. They're finally starting to click. And she thought that because they're clicking, it was the previous visit to the sex shop. You know, they got some toys, they're about to have some fun. And she's like, oh, finally, we're sparking our commitment to each other. Turns out that wasn't the case. His wife found the laptop open, she checked it, and she found out that he was talking on the site about, you know, him wanting to eat her, consume her, drain her like the pig that she is. She quickly left the apartment, went straight to the cop station and reported him. He was supposed to face life in prison for this, but was let go after he said he was only role-playing and that it was only a fetish of his. Surprisingly, this held up in court. He was let go, apparently. I mean, I don't know if I believe that. It's kind of weird. You know, if you're going to the deep web and talking to people about consuming your wife and other women, you know, a little bit sus, isn't it? A little bit sus. Maybe he wanted to get caught, you know, they were newly married, wanted to spice things up a bit. So maybe he's like, if she sees this, maybe she'll let me eat her leg. Maybe she'll let me eat more than her vagini. So like, why is it role play? I don't know. If you're on the dark web doing that, that's a little weird. Okay, that's red flag right there. Moving on to the next site. It is called Assassination Market. It is a hitman site, if you could not tell by the name. But it's not your typical hitman site. It's not your typical site to go like, hey, I will pay you this much money to go and go shoot her tactical curtains, all right? And I'll pay you this much. Get the job done and let me know when it's done and here's your money, all right? It's not like that at all. People can place bets on targets using Bitcoin or other electronic currency. A target is added to a list of potential targets. Users bet Bitcoins on when the chosen target will die. The most accurate bidder takes home the prize, all the Bitcoins. As well as this, the person bidding, they can also be the one to say which time they're going to die, but they can also be the one to carry out the assassination themselves, therefore giving themselves more of an advantage. You know, there has been a few bids on there. There's one that came up for Barack Obama. 215 Bitcoins. Someone would assassinate him at which time, blah, blah, blah. Apparently it didn't work. So this next website.
Ew, I can't wait. What is it?
I'm getting to that. So this next website.
Tell me, what is it?
I'm trying to tell you, please. Next website is called Bug Chasers. Bug Chaser forum. Now, what do you think Bug Chaser is, guys? When I say Bug Chaser, what do you imagine this site is about? Bug kink? Okay. That's weird. Okay. Computer bugs, putting viruses on people's computers, bug kinks. No, exterminator. No. There's two parts to this, okay? To this Bug Chaser forum. This is the forum where people go when they are looking to get HIV. They go on these forums, they find a person to connect with, maybe they have a sexual bond, and they're like, hey, can you give me HIV? They're like, yes, I can. Let's meet up. They find a person to give them this, but it's also flip side around. There are also people who are out there seeking to spread HIV. This is a thing. People out there are seeking to spread HIV because they believe HIV is a gift from God or just a gift in general, that they must go out and spread it. And spreading it is their right to do so, though it is illegal and really fucked up. This actually happens a lot within the gay community for men, which is really scary. There's other forums like this that gay men will actually purposely go out and spread HIV. This happened not too long ago around these parts in Canada. There was a girl around here. She contacted HIV from a guy. It might have been like a revenge thing against men. She hated men after this, all right? She hated men so much that with her anger, she decided to spread HIV to every man she slept with. So she went around sleeping with tons of guys, trying to spread HIV around these parts, just because she had an anger or an agenda against men, because she contracted it from a gentleman. So she started sleeping with a bunch of guys, no protection, giving a bunch of these guys HIV. Now you gotta be careful, guys, because there's shit out there like this, all right? Always protect yourself, always wrap your tool, because there are sick people out there like this you gotta watch out for. And it's disturbing as fuck. If you guys do enjoy these weird, paranormal, spooky shit like that, we talk about stuff like this every Friday. We've covered serial killers, the dark web, shadow people. That was the dark web. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that story.